I wish I had learned this truth many years ago. Be thankful for the days, good and bad.
All right, we're back with another episode of Warrior versus Zombie. And as always, I'm very excited to talk to you today and introduce a new warrior to you, Sue Wilhite. We'll talk about her in a second, but first, let me remind you of what Warrior versus Zombie is all about. Success is a journey, it's not a destination. As warriors, we all have a history of ups and downs, wins and losses that are all part of making us who we are up to this point and provide a foundation for our path forward. We all battle our inner zombie as well as those zombies in our world. In each episode, I interview warriors from all walks of life, aspiring leaders, entrepreneurs, artists, health practitioners, business owners, literally any inspired leader that has a story to tell. These warriors have a cause, they have unique value and a vision that goes generations into the future, and today's guest is no exception. Sue Wilhite is an awesome warrior. She's an entrepreneur, an author, a show host, a coach. Her warrior journey has included overcoming health zombies like ulcers and stress. And in overcoming these personal zombies, she realized that these types of illnesses are common in the corporate world, and especially in successful women. Working in Silicon Valley, Sue reached the top of her IT profession in 6 years, and then her healing crisis changed her life and her focus. Today, she is a two-time international #1 best-selling author, award-winning show host, law of attraction coach, and a certified biofield tuning practitioner, which I want to hear a little bit about there. I'm sure we will in our third segment. And she specializes in getting her clients unstuck and encouraging them to fulfill their own destinies. Sue Wilhite, welcome to Warrior versus Zombie. Excited to have you here today. How's life in Northern California? I'm in Dallas, as you know.
Right. Well, thank you, David. Thank you for having me. I appreciate being on the Warrior versus Zombie. That title got me from the get-go. The minute I met you, it's like, ooh, I want that.
Yeah, it's a cool metaphor, actually. I'm glad you responded positively. It's interesting. I've had some people early on, not so much anymore, but they didn't get the zombie metaphor, and they tried to translate it into maybe their Christian beliefs or this or that. And I said, no, it's not literal, at least in a, the movie perspective or the book perspective or whatever, but it's very real. And when I characterize things as inner and outer zombies and stuff, yeah, the metaphor really works. It's flows through my book, which is that I'm writing, which is, Vision Warrior, Survive and Thrive in the Zombie Apocalypse. So, and I started that before what I now call the zombie apocalypse, which was 2020. So, and what we're dealing with today, it's you can see that mindset and that, those things, they're much more obvious today than they were back when I started this whole thing. So thank you for the acknowledgement there. So how's things in Northern California? It's actually very cold here in Dallas today.
Oh, yeah, we are experiencing more dim weather right now. It's not really raining. It's not really cold. It is very cloudy. And every so often it sort of ejects a little bit of moisture here and there. We're happy to have a pause between rainstorms because we've had 3 really good soaking, flooding rainstorms over the last couple of months. So we're happy to have a little bit of a pause. Everybody in California always says, oh my God, this rain, oh, but we're good with it. We're good. We'll take the rain.
Yeah, because you need the rain because of all the overforestation and stuff like that you deal with. And if it gets too dry, then you're dealing with the fires and stuff. And rain is as much as it can be annoying, because I need the sun. Personally, I need the sun. And so like today, I lived in Michigan for 18 years, and cold is, I got enough of that in my life, and I've got all that I need to last me till 120. So I'm good there. But the thing I can't deal with, or I have trouble dealing with, and this is just understanding yourself, right, is the cloudiness. I need sun. And so today, as cold as it is, which is, I tend to be kind of cold-blooded now. I can't handle, I'm kind of acclimated to this Texas thing that I'm in. So when it's 20 some degrees this morning, that's cold. But it's, the good news is the sun's out, and if I can stand in the sun and wear enough clothes, it's okay. It's all right. All right. So any other challenges or things you're dealing with? I want to come in and hear your story, and we'll talk a little bit about what you're doing today, but I just wanted to do a check-in. So any other challenges or things you're dealing with today?
Oh, yeah. It might be that I get a new car this year, which was not in the books. My car ended up needing $3,000 worth of exhaust system repair just before Christmas.
Oh, wow.
Merry Christmas, the Toyota dealership. So we're evaluating what's going to be happening. My wife we had budgeted her to get a car this year.
Sure.
But we had not budgeted both of us getting a car this year. So we're kind of looking at that and what might happen down the road. And so now we're both praying that our cars last long enough for us to figure out how to make that happen.
Trust me, I understand that journey as well. It's juggling the car thing, and it's good that you're thinking through that in terms of how much more do you want to put into this one versus the next one, and all that. But it's not a fun. It's like I wished I could have put this one off another year or so. It's kind of like moving. It's my least favorite thing to do, is uprooting, but sometimes you have to do that. Well, let's do this. Let's take a quick break. We'll come right back. And what I want to talk about, we come back after the break, Sue, is I want to talk about kind of your journey, how you got from where you started. You get to define what that is. I've had everybody from starting at birth to starting, when they got into college, to starting last, 2 or 3 years ago. But I want to hear your journey that took you from where you started to today, and then we'll take another break and talk about what you're doing today. So with that, we'll hear a little bit of Ricky Jean Wright, and It's Not the Getting There, and we'll be right back with Sue Wilhite and Warrior versus Zombie.
But the miles become the teacher while the student learns real slow, traveling blind most of the time. Wherever you go, it's not the getting there, it's the journey every day. It's not a race to see.
All right, we are back, and Sue, that was a great check-in, and I'm kind of glad that I've got sun and you've got the clouds, but I also I know it's a little more moderate there in Northern California usually, so you've got something on me there today. It's a little chillier here, but anyway, let's get on to your story. So tell us how you got from where you started to where you are today.
Well, I'll try to give what my friends encourage me to do, which is the laser version. But there are some steps along the way that are pretty important. So when I was 8 years old, I had the unfortunate experience of witnessing a cat getting hit by a car in front of my house. Now, we had 3 cats at the time. We acquired a 4th later on, but cats were our family members. Mm-hmm. And watching that, witnessing that, and the cat suffering made it clear to me that I wanted to help that cat. I wanted to cure it on the spot, right? I wanted to do some kind of magic spell and have that cat be well, whole, and healthy. And I decided that I was going to be a veterinarian in that moment. And I decided after a little bit of research that I was born and raised in San Francisco, and the nearest veterinary college was, fortunately, the University of California, Davis campus, which is one of the premier veterinary training centers, and it's pretty much the only one on the West Coast. I think the nearest one is Wyoming, maybe. And I decided that I was going to UC Davis, period, end of conversation. That was the only college that I was going to go to. And to me, this was my first activation of the law of attraction. I set my mind on it. Nothing was going to get in my way. And even though I had a B average in high school and an abysmal 1250 SAT score. And for those of you who are not up on SAT scores, a perfect score is 1600, and 1550 is kind of the minimum to get into most colleges. So here I was with a 1250. I got into UC Davis. And unfortunately, in my sophomore year, spring quarter of my sophomore year, the college said, well, you know, you flunked all of your science courses, so either do something else or get out. And so I changed my major to comparative literature. And then spring quarter, my senior year, and I was on a 4-year scholarship, so I had to graduate. I ran into, my roommate twisted my arm and got me to go into an introduction to basic programming class. And it changed my life. I was taken by programming. I got bit by the programming bug. And a few years later, I ended up, after getting another degree, I ended up getting a job in IT. And 6 years later, I was an IT manager. Now, I ended up, one of the things that made me very successful was that I wanted to help people. It wasn't about the computer programming, although that was, a side benefit. For me, the programming was a tool. The computer was a tool to help people get through their jobs easier, more efficiently, fewer fuss and bother. And I wanted to help them get out of school early, essentially. I wanted to be able to go home and be with their families. So I was very stressed in making sure that everything worked for the folks who were using the computers, that the programs would work. And I ended up taking on an enormous amount of stress. And I ended up with an ulcer. And the ulcer was miserable. I was on drugs, which I absolutely did not want to do. And after about 1.5 years of that, I went to a hypnotherapy demo. Again, a friend twisted my arm, got me to go. And at the time, I was like, yeah, hypnotherapy, whatever, it's all a crock. I had grown up on Pat, I forget what her last name was. She was the hypnotist. And she did shows on KQED, the PBS channel, and on HBO specials. It was all show and bother, right? Well, at the end of the evening, my ulcer was gone. And that's what we call a convincer. And from then on, I was all into mind, body, spirit, healing. How does the body and the mind interact? How does this beautiful body work? How does the mind influence it? And just want to say, going back a little bit, I flunked my science courses, not because I didn't understand the concepts, but because of the math. That's another whole story about my mother installing a math phobia in me. But I understood science. I got it. I was absolutely 100% for it. So I did a deep dive into biology, anatomy. Part of my hypnotherapy certification is in hypnoanesthesiology and medical hypnotherapy. And I got into neuroscience and what makes the brain work and how does that all go. And over the years, I acquired different techniques, which to me worked better in helping people be better in their lives. That was my whole focus. How do people become more better in their lives so that they could do the things they really enjoyed, so they could go out and make a difference in the world and do what they did. And that brought me over the years to a form of sound healing called biofield tuning.
Okay.
And biofield tuning uses a particular sound frequency to interact with the electromagnetic frequency of the body to affect changes in the brain and the body.
So let me ask you this, because knowing what I know, I think that kind of takes us to today, because that is your focus right now. But let me ask you this. What I heard in your discussion of your journey, there's some fascinating things about that. And again, your story is not as uncommon as you think, but yet there are attributes of it. A lot of people think that, and I know, as we talked about, I know a lot of technical people I've had, and we tend to kind of put the people who think analytically or programmatically, let's put it that way, even mathematically, into a box. You mentioned a zombie that may have gotten lost in the audience, but you mentioned one of those thoughts that are planted in your head in your childhood, that girls are not good at math, girls are not good at science. I mean, we now acknowledge that, and as with a lot of those things, sometimes the pendulum swings way far one way or the other, and it's not a competition. It's just that everybody has unlimited possibilities. I mean, I believe that I believe, and one of my core questions when I talk to warriors or clients and everybody that God or the universe brings into my path, I view as a client. It's somebody that I can serve. And it's not a matter of whether I monetize it or not. It's whether I can help them. And then if I can help them and money follows, it's a beautiful thing. If I can't, or if I can, and it doesn't monetize, that's okay too, because I still had an impact, right? And so I think we're very aligned in that regard. The interesting thing is I found, in talking to warriors along the way, that there's not a discontinuity at all between you gravitating towards a programmer and then migrating to somebody who's looking at the algorithms or the interplay of mind, body, spirit, because nor is it out of line with me. My superpower is connecting the dots. And I did large multi-million-dollar outsourcing transactions, which are very complex, but they're just like the body. So I'm also very tuned in to the interplay and why people do what they do and that kind of stuff. And I'm very fascinated by the whole sound thing, because I've had some gong sessions and some sound type of things, and I am familiar with various frequencies having effect on our deep mind, our subconscious, those kinds of things. So I want to get into that a little bit. But you said, one of the ulcers, the health challenges, which regardless of the root cause, and root cause is the most important thing. That's one of the problems we have. And I assume I'm looking here, I can see you, I can see the nodding of the head. You would agree with the fact that our Western medicine, as wonderful as it is for treating acute conditions where you're going to die, or you broke an arm, or you broke a leg, or this, and we have the best technology and the capabilities in the world, I think, for going after those things. Unfortunately, we treat symptoms with point solutions that create other side effects that then we have to treat with other point solutions that get us overly, and you already mentioned that, dependent on pharmaceuticals, on things that should only be used for acute situations, but we use them chronically and create chronic side effects. So I'm very much aligned with you. I believe we haven't had a lot of conversation in that regard. Any other zombies before we go into the next segment, which is talking about where you are today, and that sort of thing? Any other things that you've overcome getting to where you are today that the audience would be interested in understanding?
Well, I think the one of the biggest zombies you mentioned in Western medicine, and I want to do a little bit more on that, is not treating the body as a system and only treating a thing. No, it's great to know everything there is to know about the kidneys. Kidneys are fascinating. I love them. I think they're really cool. And they interact with other things in the body. They interact with the circulatory system. So you can't do kidneys without knowing about the heart and the circulatory system. And you can't do the heart without doing the brain. Mm-hmm. And you can't do the brain without doing everything else.
Mm-hmm. And you can't do the, those things without understanding lymphatic system, and you can't, yes, your nervous system, your functional, even your teeth, even your dental, the connection of the system. And that's why I say, a lot of people, I actually, Dr. Ronit Moore, I think she was episode 5. She's a naturopathic doctor, started as a programmer. She's Israeli, amazing person. If you ever want to do a little more research, go to mywellbeingcompass.com and look at, because it's focused on the 360, all areas of the compass. So it very much is aligned, I think, with where we're going to go here. And there's practitioners from, energy healers to massage therapists to acupuncturists to MDs to DOs to, organic or biologic dentists and all this other stuff, that everybody that plays well together for focusing on the client. Well, let's do this. Let's take another quick break, because I really want to get into, sounds like we're getting into some really cool stuff. And I want to talk about where you are and why you're doing what you're doing today, and the unique value that you bring. And then, if anything were possible, what kind of impact we have in this next segment of Warrior versus Zombie with Sue Wilhite. Let's hear a little more of Ricky Jean Wright. We'll be right back.
To see how many people know your name. One day you realize time was worth more than the gold. It's not the getting there. When you get there, you'll know. Funny how wisdom and youth are always two different games.
All right, it's a new year, 2022, and I'm excited. And Sue, thank you for joining us today. But now I want to hear about your focus today and going forward, and why you're doing what you're doing, and the value you see yourself providing, and the impact that you want to have as you move forward. So share a little bit of that with our audience.
Yeah, thank you. Oh boy, I could talk about this all day. So what people in general don't know, and it's always amazing to me that they don't know this, because it's been a part of my world for well over a decade now, is that the brain, the heart, and the gut all emit an electromagnetic field. And so we are wandering around with this bubble, this electromagnetic bubble around us, and it surrounds us 360 degrees. It pops in, it has a little divot at the top of the head and a little divot at the bottom of the feet. It looks kind of like an apple. But we have this field. Now, it's a weak electromagnetic field. It's not going to generally interfere with most things, but it resonates with something called the Schumann resonance, which is the resonance, the electromagnetic field of the Earth, which is 7.63 hertz. Our bodies function at some multiple of 7.63 hertz. It might be a little bit stronger. If your body is running at a strong multiple of 7.63 hertz, I bet watches don't work for you, electronics zorch out, and you might experience lamps flickering around you on a constant basis, because 7.63 hertz does not play well with the 60 hertz that is the wiring for most buildings and most electronics. This is why we need to ground, by the way. This is why we need to go outside, interact with nature, take what are called tree baths, so that we can reset our bodies from struggling with the 60 hertz. This electromagnetic field turns out to be just like your average flash drive. It stores things. And because it's generated from the brain, the heart, and the gut, it's storing our thoughts and beliefs and emotions. Think about that. It's storing our thoughts, beliefs, and emotions are out here in the field. They are held there so that when we have a memory, what we're really doing is retrieving it from the field with all of the emotional stuff that's attached to it. What biofield tuning does is it uses that field to unkink and disconnect some of the attractions between a thought and a belief and an emotion that can cause harm to the body, that can stop you from doing what it is that you want to do. So it works on both a physical and a mental, emotional level. Let me give you an example. David, do you have any siblings?
Yes, I have a younger brother and sister.
Oh, great. That's perfect. So let's say that you were how much younger are they from you?
Each of them, there's two, my brother's 2 years younger and my sister's 2 years younger. So it's like we're 2 years apart.
Great. So let's say that you were about 3 and your brother broke something of yours that was very precious to you. Okay. And you complained about this and your parents said, oh no, it's okay. Number one, you didn't need that anyway. Number two, he's just a kid. You don't worry about it. It's not important. He gets away with it, in other words.
Right.
This is a betrayal by your parents, who are God at that point.
Right.
And you get a little entry into your field that I'm not valued, that authority doesn't support me, and betrayal. So the next time you have an experience of somebody not supporting you, it enhances that original strong feeling of betrayal and not being supported. And pretty soon that creates a filter for you. It actually writes back to the brain, and the brain is now looking for things that are going to betray you.
Yeah, it's your reticular activating system.
It's your reticular activation system.
It's confirmation bias. It's a lot of different things that we can label it. But the bottom line is anything that your mind perceives as a threat, regardless of whether it's in your energetic field or, in your subconscious, in your zombie brain, whatever it happens to be, is something that you're not conscious of. It's there, and it can be, as you described it, in your way, a very energetic block, if you will. And I totally get it.
Yes. So what biofield tuning does is it resets that initial pop and unhooks that betrayal, abandonment, not being cherished, not being valued, not being approved of, all of that. It unhooks that and lets that energy go. So it's no longer writing to your reticular activation system. And therefore, you stop looking for betrayal. You stop looking for people who are going to let you down. You stop looking for people who are going to break your stuff.
Yeah, you're not looking for that confirmation anymore. And it really is actually my last episode, which I recorded on my own, is also, this ties to that because it's excuses. And so the excuses that we consciously believe we have are really rooted in, or in your world, if I can connect those dots, is rooted in an energetic place where we have relied on that excuse and that energetic relationship that really isn't legitimate. If you get outside of your own being and realize where you fit in the quantum field and everything, it really isn't there. But we believe it is. And so if we believe it is because we will act on that, right? Let's do I want to ask one more question though, before we launch, because we could go, we're on an area where I'm very, and we maybe have to do another show where we just talk about this. Okay. So, and we can do that. I have the flexibility. You have your show. I have my show. We can have fun with this, but let me ask you this. So, I want to talk specifically about you mentioned, I want you to explain a little bit about that sound thing, about the tuning for, I think you use tuning for, whatever. Explain that just a little bit. And then I want you to tell me quickly, before we end this segment, what kind of impact you're hoping to have. Because I know you're launching a new program, a new way of serving your audience and the Be Connected community, as well as the community at large. So I want to make sure we get that out before we go into the next segment.
Yeah, so we're going to get into a little bit of weird physics here.
Okay, it's fine.
So sound is a frequency. Your electromagnetic field is a frequency. The strongest held frequency wins. This is really important for those of you who are interacting with other people, because if you pop your frequency into being very powerful, your frequency is going to influence people. The tuning forks hold a frequency in your field and become the strongest thing in your field with intent. And so I literally stick a fork in it and hold that tuning fork in your field and allow that to break up my teacher calls it a perturbation, is an official thing, and I call it a kerfluffle. I like kerfluffle better. Break up the kerfluffle so that you don't have that reaction anymore. And in a certain way, it's a little bit like the reactions that I've seen with people when I used to do EFT. They forget what it was they used to think and believe and be. They have no memory. What do you mean I did that? Yes, that's what you used to do. This is the thing. So the cool thing, and this is where it gets into really weird physics, we are all connected. We all are bits of physics, bits of electromagnetic energy.
Yeah, we're energy in the quantum field. We're energy in the quantum field, which is not constrained by time and or location. It is, I mean, there's degrees of intensity. I get, yeah. Again, we can go into the, I mean, and I know enough to be dangerous, but I do understand and believe that, it's all part of the divine creation of who we are and how we fit into the universe and why it all works. So I get that. So you use tuning forks. So what is your, as you're launching a program, And then as you launch your program, what is the impact you're hoping to have?
I want to have people be more of who they really are, with the interference of those old kerfluffles out of the way, so that they can be more powerful, they can be more effective, they can be more productive. I think it was Russell Brunson who said, he's the creator of ClickFunnels.
Mhm.
And he said, I don't do brain surgery. I don't do dog training. I don't do any of these things. But if people using my software can do those more better, then that's what I'm about. And I went, absolutely, I'm adopting that. That is completely a great description of what it is that I do. I feel like I'm throwing the starfish back into the sea, right?
One at a time.
And so I put people back into where they should be and let them launch whatever it is that they're going to do to be more powerful. If they're, CEOs, great. If they're practitioners, great. I want them to be more of who they really are, so that they can make the impact in the world.
Fascinating. Totally aligned. I mean, there's so many things. I mean, again, the zombie mind, the warrior versus zombie, anybody listening to this has been on this journey. You'll understand why this energizes me, is because the zombie mind is when you're moving forward without your own intent. Mm-hmm. And the thing is, what Sue's talking about is a way to break the linkage between your zombie mind and your intent, which is your vision, and which is your analytical mind and your intention to move forward. And many times the whole noise, if you will, let me call it that, not kerfuffle, but let me call it noise. The noise that we're living in is designed to keep us safe from the tragedies or the things that hurt us in the past, and they keep us moving forward on a path that our history becomes our destiny. And the thing is, the only way your destiny can become what you hopefully would want it to be is by breaking that linkage and getting connected at a more powerful level with where you're going. So let's do this. This has been brilliant and exciting, and we have to get to the land the plane segment, and we're probably a little long. That's okay. I don't worry about the time, really. That's not, we're in a quantum field, so time isn't a factor. But if it's valuable, hopefully it has been to the audience. Let's take a quick break. We'll come back with what I call the land the plane segment, and there I want you to share with the audience one or two things that you want to make sure that if we listen to this, that we absolutely take away. And then I want to hear, how do we stay in touch with you? This can be, your program, be connect, whatever. And then we'll land the plane. So with that, let's take another quick break. We'll hear a little more from Ricky Jean Wright. It's Not the Getting There, our theme song. And we'll be right back with Sue Wilhite and Warrior versus Zombie.
Funny how wisdom and youth are always two different games. The years flew by so fast, is the common human complaint. The memories in our minds turn to diamonds in our soul, and by the grace of God, on down the road.
All right, we are back, and Sue, our energy level is really high on this podcast. I can feel it. We're not operating at that low frequency that we don't want to be at. We're at a very high frequency in this, and I love it when that occurs on this podcast, because I know that we're striking a chord, so to speak. But let's, as I said before the break, share with me the couple things, or that you want to make sure that when we listen to this podcast, whether it's in your story or what you're doing today, that we take away.
So how do you know that you're experiencing kerfuffles? How do you know, in your metaphor, that you're a zombie? It's because what you say you want and what is showing up for you is not congruent. Mm-hmm. That's how you know. And so if that is happening for you, I suggest you go back and listen to this and really be conscious when you're listening, because one of the aspects of the kerfluffles, it will delete, or as they call it, elide, what you're listening to. So you can't hear it. So go back and really consciously focus on what you've heard today and get it that if what you want and what you've got isn't in alignment, you might want to take care of some kerfluffles.
Well, I think that's brilliant. I mean, actually, that's probably one of the most powerful things that somebody can take away from this podcast or anything else is, and you work with clients, you do coaching, I do coaching, regardless of the tools we have in our kit. And usually life is a team sport, right? So there's people that I can help to a point. There's people you can help to a point where we all are trying to contribute. But the brilliant part of this that may get lost, but I think is needs to be understood, is when we're talking, when we not just listening to yourself and looking at what you do, actions are a result of our thoughts and our feelings. And 95% of those processed thoughts are the same thoughts we had yesterday. So we get trapped in that zombie moving forward. So we get that. The thing is, listen to the language of imperatives. If you're saying it to yourself or to other people, and I hear it every day, I should, I could, I want to, that's can be an alignment of values. It can be alignment of priorities. And it's generally a break in your intent versus what you've been conditioned with your zombie mind. And that's kind of what you're saying, right? Is that not the point, the main point?
Yes.
That's
great. If you're not saying, okay, I'm doing that, if you're saying instead, oh, I want to, for instance, I could say, I want a new car. What I'm saying is I'm researching what it would take to get a new car. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying I just want it. It's not that I'm going around going, oh, pretty Tesla. Yeah, that would be cool. I'm like, okay, what's it going to take to get a new car?
Right.
What's it going to be?
Am I acting on those words, those thoughts, and taking and moving down that path? Some people wait till the last minute and then get forced into it. But you're saying you're taking action. Okay, well, that's beautiful. And so Sue, this has been awesome. And again, I said I wasn't kidding. We may have to come back and do a follow-on episode, just drilling into the specific topic of your energetic and that at a later date, but or maybe on your show. Who knows? We'll talk about. But how do we stay in touch with you?
Well, I am on Be Connected, so I do absolutely have a profile that people can look up. Sue Wilhite. Pretty easy to find me. I also have a website, sweetsoundofsuccess.com, where if you want to get biofield tuning sessions, you could do that. My coaching program, my new coaching program, is also on that website in a menu item. It's the Call to Action Coaching Program. And I am also launching a kind of a tasting menu, if you want. I am putting together a course that I did as a one-day workshop years ago. I am putting it together as an online self-paced course called Permission to Profit. And it's about getting clear on the thoughts and feelings and blocks and where are you around making a difference in the world. Profit can be simply the energy return that you get. Is it greater or less than what you are putting out? Or
Yeah, actually, that's great. So there's a couple of ways to get the easiest way for those that are seeing this in the Be Connected replay or on any of the platforms is it's, by the way, Be Connected is BEEKONNECTED. So if you're hearing it, It's spelled with a K, and the B is like a B. So you know, and both this is how Sue and I connected in this community. It's a very powerful community, but by the way, it's not like some of these other platforms. It is invitation only. So we are very much looking for people that have the intent to serve their community, and it's a high integrity, high value community. It's not millions of people right now. It may be at some point in time, but it is very, very intentional. And I love that about the community, and I love that about you, Sue. And I know that the audience is going to be blessed by our conversation here. So again, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, David. Bless you. I'm so glad that we were able to connect and get this show together. I would love to do another show where we do a deep dive into the energy systems and how that all works, because to me, that's mind candy. And because I love it, I think everybody else should too.
Well, it's definitely an area. It's a lot of times when we're passionate about something or we discover something and we want to share it with everybody else, we become somewhat evangelical about it, and other people don't necessarily understand the level of energy that surrounds maybe what we get excited about. It sounds like we are very aligned. We just actually connected for the first time one-to-one yesterday, but it was very clear in the energy alignment there that we needed to do this. And, you know, I run my life by divine appointment, and the stars aligned, and there's a reason for that. We are in a quantum field and a reason, and I try to roll with that as much as possible. So I'm excited we got the opportunity to do that. And again, we'll be back next week with Warrior versus Zombie next Thursday at 11 Central, 9 Pacific, like your time. And we'll be back with another Warrior guest. And Shar Murphy, I believe, is the guest next week. But we'll be doing this every time. And who knows, I might be back with Sue on another Thursday, because I know we're going to stay connected. So with that, we'll hear the final outro of It's Not the Getting There with Ricky Jean Wright, and we will see you next week on Warrior versus Zombie.
It's not the getting there, it's the journey every day. It's not a race to see how many people know your name. One day you realize time was worth more than the gold. It's not the getting there. When you get there, you'll know. One day you realize time was worth more than the gold. It's not the getting there. When you get there, you'll know.